Hi guys, I'm Lorraine,
I'm Edwin.
and this is our presentation on Life After Prison, America's Undercaste. Unfortunately, Elise is a really good swimmer. Fortunately, she's making it to States today, so good luck to Elise at States. But you'll be hearing a video presentation from her.
Hi everyone, I'm Elise. I'd like to invite you all to join me in a little activity. I'll ask you a question, and you guys answer with what you think is correct. Feel free to give shout out and number. What percentage of prisoners will be arrested within 3 to 10 years?
90.
60.
What do you think the unemployment rate for incarcerated individuals is?
67.
What is
80.
the average income within the first year of release?
10K. Okay.
Okay, so can someone repeat those statistics really quickly? I heard 67% for the second statistic. And 10K for the third statistic. Can anyone remind me of what the first one was? Okay, wow, we're really lively today. But anyways, here's a review.
In actuality, these are the statistics. 86% of released prisoners are arrested within 9 years. The unemployment rate for formerly incarcerated people is 5 times that of the general public. And the average income within a year of release is only 10K. And that's among the people who actually choose to report their earnings. There is a designated undercast, a group of people living at the bottom rung of American hierarchy, and it's right under our very noses. In actuality, these are the statistics. One of these people that have experienced these systemic barriers is the entry of Isaac. Isaac entered the system at 13 and spent 7 years locked away and received full back. He had months after his release. Just before 2021, prosecutors ordered him to enforce that wasn't the Trump at all. He spent 5 years or letting his brother face it. With nearly 98% of convictions coming from plea deals, this kind of coercion is built into the machinery of the nursing system. Isaac took the sentence to protect his family, and keep his home to the same reality that we face. No money, no stable work, and a society that treats his criminal record like a permanent mark of belonging to an undercast. For people in his position, the struggle isn't just about finding work. It's about convincing society to see them as more than the worst thing they've ever been accused of. A few individuals manage to push through these barriers and rebuild their lives in extraordinary ways. And the media loves to focus on these real good stories. Yet these stories only highlight how risky crime is for everyone else. Isaac's experience shows how fear, poverty, and systemic pressure trap people in an undercast, where punishment continues long after the sentence ends, and how the fight for justice continues even after prison gates are closed.
Okay, thank you, Elise. Okay. Is this a fair punishment for breaking the law? Should prisoners have to struggle through the lifelong consequences as a result of their wrongdoing? It seems dangerous to hire an ex-convict, like who knows what they can do. What if they reflect? Keep this in the back of your mind, and let's take a look on what prisons are meant to do. Prisons serve 4 primary functions: retribution, incapacitation, deterrence, and rehabilitation. Retribution. This is the concept that individuals should suffer consequences proportional to their crimes. Incapacitation. This is the physical removal of offenders from society to remove them from committing further crimes in the community. Deterrence. The threat of imprisonment is used to discourage the public from committing crimes and to stop the individual from reoffending. And rehabilitation. Prisons are used to provide education, vocational training, and counseling to help inmates reform their behavior, address the root causes of offending, and reintegrate into society. Now, let's look at the data again. Here. Okay, so 83% of inmates are arrested again within years of their release. Okay, that seems to negate the prison's functions of rehabilitation and deterrence. Okay, maybe that's just a fluke. Let's continue. The unemployment rate for formerly incarcerated people is 5 times that of a regular civilian. Around 25% of the U.S. prison population is incarcerated for lower level or non-violent offenses, and now they are 5 times more likely to be unemployed and earn an average of $10K salary every year. I feel like this is the idea of retribution, but it's not fair here. Individuals are suffering a punishment that far outweighs the harm they committed. So really, after this analysis, the American prison system only serves to do one thing. Incapacitate. It only serves to physically remove people to have committed crimes for society. And we know this, the fact that the prison system only fulfills its purpose of removing offenders from the community is why we hesitate to accept ex-convicts. It's why we think they're going to reoffend. This is why we find nothing wrong with limiting their civil liberties and their barriers from voting, or why it's harder for them to get a job. We recognize that the prison systems cannot fulfill its purpose of rehabilitation, of deterrence, and of retribution. So we become wary of accepting those who were involved within the system. Our distrust in ex-convicts is some percentage at least originates from a distrust in the system itself.
Thus, we must dismantle the racialized undercaste faced by ex-felons, which unjustly erases inherent personal freedoms. But how? There are 3 general streams of thought when it comes to advocacy surrounding the prison system: reform, defund, or abolish. Reform, in this case, means that this is an isolated incident, that the prison system only affected some ex-convicts disproportionately out of the chance, that there's only a few bad apples making this happen. It argues that cases like Isaac's, that Elise talked about at the beginning of the presentation, are isolated. Defund means to remove some spending from the prison complex itself and reinvesting that funding into different programs, other programs that focus on inmate care and rehabilitation. It doesn't mean lowering the quality of prisons, it means reallocating funds into different programs. Finally, abolish. Initially, you might think that abolish means to just get rid of prisons altogether and let inmates on the streets. Actually, abolish means to abolish the idea of the prison system, but not this idea of containment. Convicts might all be held in rehabilitation facilities that present a totally different appearance than standard cold prisons. Let's examine available evidence to determine our next steps. Reform means that these cases of the undercaste are isolated. But this isn't the case. Policies like the Anti-Drug Abuse Act of 1986 created harsh mandatory sentences that filled prisons with people from low-income communities and communities of color, then sent them home with felony records that blocked access to jobs, housing, and public assistance. Another example is the 1994 Violent Crime Control and Law Enforcement Act, which expanded funding for prisons and encouraged states to adopt longer sentences, further increasing the number of people returning to society with lifelong legal and economic barriers. When individuals are released, these policies push them back into neighborhoods with fewer resources and limited opportunities, reinforcing the same structural inequalities that contributed to their incarceration. This shows that the hardships people face after prison isn't just a personal failure, but they're the predictable outcome of laws and systems designed in ways that systematically concentrate disadvantages over time. It seems like reform isn't the right way to go here. It's clear that these stories aren't isolated incidents. While with defund, San Mateo County has actually adopted several networks of re-entry services designed to reduce recidivism. The Service League of San Mateo County offers immediate post-incarceration support, including bus tokens, food bags, hygiene kits, and emergency motel vouchers. It provided a total of 108,327 in-custody services and have coordinated over 130,000 in-custody and post-release services. However, what if change actually started within the prison rather than after release? On the other hand, abolishment seems a little bit more of a utopic long-term solution, as no country has completely abolished prisons. We want to implement a system that can actually adhere to the core tenets of retribution, incapacitation, deterrence, and rehabilitation, through an emphasis on change within the system. We also want to establish a system that allows ex-convicts to thrive within society, like the one seen in San Mateo County. Abolishing the system would be a long-term goal when these methods previously listed begin to instill societal change. It seems like we're going a little further than defund, but not there at abolish yet. It's this intersection between defund and abolish that can help us begin to unravel America's racialized undercast of ex-felons. We want to transform the justice system, reducing its punitive power and expanding structures that actually support rehabilitation. Data from policies like the Anti-Drug Abuse Act of 1986 and the 1994 Crime Bill reveal how mandatory sentencing and expanded prison funding drove incarceration up while creating lifelong barriers to work, housing, and civic life. Changing these laws would reshape the legal bones of the system by replacing automatic punishments with pathways of integration. If these reforms had existed earlier, people like Isaac would have been pushed into coercive plea deals or returned to communities with no opportunities. They would have real support, legal protection, and economic stability. Our distrust of ex-convicts stems, at least partially, from our distrust in the system. There's this fear that reducing the system's reach will harm public safety, but community-centered models actually show the opposite. When rehabilitation and reintegration are prioritized, recidivism drops and communities unite. At the intersection of defunding and abolition with systems that actually prioritize rehabilitation, we seek to dismantle the structures that keep ex-felons trapped in Americans' hierarchy. Thank you.